Good Saturday morning, everybody. As I'm realizing I don't have my iron on, I hope we are having a really awesome day. I hope, yeah, I am broadcasting. I also apparently have something, yeah, I had a nose problem yesterday, not yesterday, Thursday. And my esthetician managed to fix it, but I have a little bit left over, so please ignore my nose. It is a gorgeous Saturday morning, although I've already had technology issues because, um, yeah, OBS decided to reset itself again, which happened about a month or so ago. I really need to see if I can figure out how to save all of my settings, because if I don't save my settings, that's what causes the problems. I can't restore it. So right now, chat is broken on the live replay. So I apologize for that in advance. If everybody who wants to be chit-chatting and see their name up on the screen, sorry. I will get that figured out. Hopefully after this, because I only had like 10 minutes to rebuild my screen setup, and chat was not able to get back in there. The normal YouTube chat, if you display it on your screen, that still works. So that's that. It's just, if you remember, I set up the chat box a couple weeks ago. In the screen here, I think it shows up about here. Yeah, I think it's here that it shows up. So, yeah, sorry, things happen. But it is a gorgeous Saturday. We've had a couple terrifying thunderstorms the past couple days. And I say terrifying because Thursday was terrifying because I was out in it. We had little tiny hail pieces. I don't know what size hail they would call it. Maybe a little bit larger than sand. I don't know. It wasn't quite pea. And I had to be driving in it. So, because I had my eyebrow did at my esthetician's office. And like I said, she zapped this thing right here. And yeah, it was one of those terrifying downpours. The temperature dropped like 22 degrees in 5 minutes, which is a lot of degrees to drop. And the sheer torrential, I could not see. I could see the car in front of me, but I could not see any further than that in most cases. So it was very scary. It took me almost an hour to get home when it normally takes me about 20 minutes. So but I took the side roads because I was not stupid enough to get on the interstate with this kind of rain, especially since that section of the interstate I would have been right on is full of tractor trailers. So no, was not going to do that. And then yesterday we had another one of those torrential downpours. I got video of this one, and Riley was a little on edge. Riley does not get on edge with storms and everything usually, but it was it was a little intense. We had some good thunder and lightning, and the whole like sheer sheets of rain. I don't know if there was any hail in this one because I wasn't outside with anything to clunk down on my head. But it was pretty intense. I don't know if we're going to get another one of those today or not. I guess we'll see later this evening. So let's go over to the chat real quick to see who we have here. Julie is the firsties here today, who says, hello, Russ. Great day to sew. It is. I don't know how warm it's going to get up again today, but if we do have another one of those storms, I'm sure it's going to drop there. The only good thing about the storms is it cools off the house, which has been baking in the sun all day, which means my air conditioner starts to work properly again. Because once the temperature gets up to a certain point, it gets very difficult, especially with the sun blaring, it gets very difficult to convince the insides to stay cool if the outsides are like a million degrees. So there is that. We also have Joydy, who says, "Good morning, Russ," with a wave and a cup of coffee. I don't do coffee. I do have the Pepsi, though. Good morning, my friend Steven of Bland Designs and the Idiot Quilter. Good morning, Kathy, and good morning, Brian. Good morning, Candace, who we almost went shopping today, but she's like, "I need to save money." And I'm like, "Okay, I need to save money too." Good morning, Jeannie E. And good morning, Balloonist. Kathy says grapple is what we call that kind of hail in Saskatchewan. So the little tiny little, it wants to be hail, but it's barely anything. Like it was almost like a sleet because it was so small. I just don't know all of the proper definitions between like sleets and ice and hail. Because I'm not a meteorologist, and I don't think I cared enough in school when we were learning that little bit of meteorology. And good morning, Colleen. I just saw that I may have missed you. I apologize for that. So today, I'm going to get back to more of my Quilty homework. I haven't done too much further on the snail trail blocks because you see I didn't even press the last pieces that I put on. So let me get that pressed real quick. And the main reason why I'm doing this for my Quilty homework is because we are getting really close to being done with this project. And if I'm going to be done with this, I need to have all the pieces completed. So there is that. Camera. Like I said, everything has moved. So here we go over to this. We got a big black box right here. And that's where the chat usually is. I just can't remember how to put the chat back on. And I didn't have time to Google because, like I said, it crashed right before all of this. So back to what I'm doing, and I'm trying to remember because it's been a week since I touched this. I'm popping 17 and 18, and I will cut 17 and 18, or trim. As long as I do everything correct. So how is everybody's Saturday today? I hope it is starting out pretty awesome. Because that's what Saturdays are meant to be. I do have to go to one of my shops, and I haven't decided if I'm going to go today or tomorrow. Because I need fabric. Which, I know. Why do I need fabric if I have just purchased all this other fabric? Especially the Art East stuff that arrived yesterday. Really awesome video I published last night. Go see it if you haven't seen it. I have been convinced to do a Christmas in July event. And it's not going to be an overly extravagant Christmas in July event because it's my first one. I don't know really everything that I'm doing. But I have picked out a pattern So I need to get fabric for that pattern. And I will be announcing everything. Things don't work without my knee bar. I will be announcing everything hopefully next week for the Christmas in July stuff. Because that'll be a fun event to do. And like I said, I was kind of conned into it, and I'm using the word con loosely because having events is always fun, especially when you can get a whole bunch of people to join in on the same project. It is not going to be as complicated as, like, you know, the Artiste projects or Dragon Fruit or something like that. Hopefully something that we can do in a day. And have, you know, at least one of our Christmas projects completed. Not there. Not there. There looks a little better. Candace says, "What now? Who would con me into that?" I don't know. I don't like to call people out on the channel, so I'm not going to do it. Because it was, you know, I think it was last week when I was talking about the friend of mine who did their first snail trail block and had a minor mistake. And I was like, I'm not going to call anybody out on this one. I have no idea how I did that. Oh, now I see how I did that. My fold was slightly off for some reason. But I have enough. If you look at this side, the seam is a little thin. But that's still a good 1/8 of an inch seam. So I don't think I'm too concerned about that. As I like to say, once it's been quilted, it'll have that extra little support. I just need to start. I need to double check my phone. Oopsie. I don't know why I'm doing it this way. I tell people that it's easier to pop the stuff this side to avoid ripping the paper like I just did. And this one's trying to do the bad fold as well, because I got to fold here. Okay, that's better. Okay. I'm trying to be smart. I pre-fold all of my seams because that makes it a little bit faster. And when you pre-fold, and then you have a whole bunch of ins and outs with your folds, sometimes your paper forgets where it was supposed to be folded. But it is definitely easier to have things folded ahead of time, because trying to figure out where this line is after you've had the fold go in and out a few times, and the little bit of rips that you have from the seam paper, that gets to be a little bit of a nightmare after a while. So that's why I like to fold early. Julie says she told on herself. And Jody says, good morning, chatters. Had to let the whuppie out and help him upstairs. He's almost 18. Oh, cool whuppie. She'll watch the replay and see what she missed. Hopefully you're not going to miss too much, because all it is, people chit-chatting and me spilling a little bit of beans here and there when I can. And with beans that I can spill, I'm sure you may have seen my friend Stephanie over of Quilting with Stephanie Stitches. She spilled the beans on an event that we are going to be doing together in October. She had told me a couple months ago that there was a Stitch in Heaven cruise that was going to be out of Fort Lauderdale, and they were offering a $500 shopping spree if you signed up for it. And I was like, well, number one, we could all easily spend $500. But number two, I've never been on a cruise, and it sounds fun. And I looked at it, and it just happens to be the same week as my birthday, which means I had it off from work already. I wouldn't have had to put anything different going on in my schedule. So I was like, ooh, that sounds like a lot of fun. But I also knew I had my Massachusetts trip going. And I was like, if I don't spend an exorbitant amount of money in Massachusetts, I'm going to do the cruise. So I didn't spend an exorbitant amount of money in Massachusetts. So I talked to Stephanie, and I was like, I'm going to treat myself on the cruise. And she wanted to go too. So we signed up together a couple of weeks ago. And I'm all excited. I'm going on my first cruise. And I've had friends say, are you concerned because it's going to be your first cruise and all this other stuff? I was like, not really, because I grew up practically on lakes and rivers and stuff. I would go fishing with some family members and friends of family members. No, they're technically family members. I had to sit and think. Because my cousin's grandparents, their grandfather, he used to do catfishing, and he had his spots and everything. And somehow, back in the day, I was like, ooh, can I go out with you? And not really realizing I would have to get up at like 2 in the morning to do this. But yeah, I went out a few times. We always had friends who lived on a lake or something, so we would go out boating. So I'm mostly comfortable on smaller boats. And so I'm like, I can probably be fine on a cruise ship. And all I keep thinking about is like the I Love Lucy episodes. The first one about where Fred and Lucy are on the Staten Island ferry. They take the seasick pills and then fall asleep for hours and stuff. But also, you know, the various antics that she does, getting on the cruise and all that other stuff. That's all I have been thinking about for the past few weeks. So I'm very excited. But before I continue the story, I've got this one done, this snail trail. Actually, this way is up, technically. So I've got 2 more to do, and I'm going to start on that now. If I can do this correctly, because I had issues with it last time. Joydy is asking, when is the cruise date and where can you spend the $500? The cruise dates are in October. I want to say it's like the 12th through the 18th. Wait, let me look at this. Google. Yeah, 12 through 18. And the $500 gift certificate is through Stitch in Heaven. So I have to spend it from them. I haven't gotten the certificate info yet. I need to figure that out. But I think it'll be fun. Joydy says, I'll be fine. Just take motion sickness pills with me. I probably should, just in case. Like I said, I don't think I'm overly concerned. I don't get motion sickness on planes. Growing up, I never got it on the boats, so I shouldn't be too bad. Why am I doing it this way? I do it this way. And this one, my exact center is off by like 2 threads. But nobody will ever know, except for y'all, because you just heard it. And then mint goes on this side. Can you say foo-foo drinks 24/7? On one hand, yes. On the other hand, I don't drink. So, okay. So the frou-frou drinks aren't really useful on me. I know we all have to have some sort of a drink package, so I'm probably going to end up getting the soft drink package. Because even if you want water, from what I understand, it still needs to be part of a package. Best be prepared, especially cruising during hurricane season. Yeah, I kind of thought that it should be the end of hurricane season. But you know, things have gone kind of haywire the past few years. Oh, look at that. I am actually properly lined up. So I'll take you out. Since I am lined up pretty well, push this down, and I can remove the pins out of here. Good food 24/7, lol, yes. I don't know how much of the 24/7 exists because, again, I've not been on a cruise. And I need all the beauty sleep I can get because, you know, this takes a lot of work to maintain. Okay. I am going to trim number 5 first. And until I get started, I said last time, I only trim one side at a time until I'm started. But Stephanie has been on this cruise before, this destination set. So she is very excited about our ports and everything. I'm very excited to, you know, get on my first cruise. It's the first time I can say I have been using my passport. Because, yeah, I went and got it. So, what I did, my passport story is pretty amusing. However many years ago it was when they were about to change the passport rules about something. I think it was the cost that they were changing. A whole bunch of us said, and by a whole bunch of basically anybody who traveled said, I need to get my passports done. And people who didn't travel were basically like, I might want to use a passport, so let me get it done. So the lines were incredulous at the post office to get passports because you have to do it at certain locations. I filled out the application, and there was one question that says, have you had a passport before? And I went to the post office guy and said, I don't know how to answer this question because it says, have you had a passport before? And if so, what was your old passport number? And he goes, what do you mean you don't know how to answer this question? I was like, well, I had a passport before. I have seen it. But it was about 30 years ago. And he goes, you look like you're 30. And I was like, that's about right. And he goes, I don't understand. So I had to explain that I was born in one of those foreign ports, we'll call it. Dad was in the Air Force. I was born on base overseas. And in order to get me back, they got me a passport. And so I was like, I've seen the passport, but I have no idea what the number could be. And so he says, just feign ignorance. Say you didn't have a passport before, and if something else happens, they'll contact you and be like, and you can just be like, well, I was a baby, I didn't know. So I did that. I had 2 forms filled out. One that said, yes, I had a passport before, and what my number was blank. And the other one was, no, I hadn't had a passport before. And obviously leaving everything else blank. That way I didn't have to refill something out while I was there under pressure. And it took, I think, 3 weeks longer than anticipated. And I think that was because when they were probably researching me, they probably came into a passport that belonged to me. And they were probably like, why has he got a passport before? And he said he didn't. So they probably had to do some research as to who I am and why I may have had another passport or something. I don't know. It could have just been the influx of stuff. But I like to think that I had a special thing. So maybe I do have my same passport number as I did however many years ago. I was a child now. And I have no way to verify that because I don't know what my passport number was back then. Because, like I said, I've seen it, but we have moved, and I think it ended up getting lost on a move, but such is life. Joody says, "Isn't it terrible the way charge you for everything now? Next, they'll charge for ocean air." I mean, technically, they do charge for ocean air because if you want an ocean view versus, an interior view, there's a large difference in prices there. But yeah, if you want to do basically anything on a cruise except their basic dining, it seems like you have to cost. But I also look at it this way. If I wanted to go take a trip somewhere, I probably cannot spend 7 days, 6 nights for the same price. That's really what's justifying it for me. Because if I, now staying with family is different because if I go visit my family, it'll cost me less than that. And I still have to pay to get to the location. But if I try to justify it against, QuiltCon this past year was in Phoenix. So if I wanted to go to QuiltCon, it would have cost me $2,500 just in hotels for those handful of nights. So I'm like, I'm spending less for longer days than the QuiltCon hotel that I would have had in Phoenix. So that's one of the ways that I'm kind of justifying it. Candace says that she has been on a lot of cruises and only seasick once. Turns out she was pregnant. I don't think, well, at least right now I can tell you I can't be pregnant because I haven't had those conversations with a stork. Because, that's apparently how things happen. Sunscreen, though, yes. I do remember that song from the 90s, Wear Sunscreen. And that is one of the things that I definitely need to go pick up. Especially before it stops being sunscreen season. When I was playing Pokemon Go on a regular basis, I would constantly have sunscreen in the trunk of my car so that when we got to the park, I'd be like, oh, I got to put sunscreen on. And I would put it on. And when I went to play last weekend, I forgot that I didn't have sunscreen. So I was like, I need to get sunscreen. And the friend was like, you can go to Publix. And I was like, oh yeah, Publix is kind of on the way. And then as I was heading to Publix, I was like, wait, Walgreens is on the same side of the road. I can go there easier. So I ended up stopping at Walgreens and getting sunscreen. But I don't know how much I have left of that because it's the spray, and the spray only works for a little bit. Jody is hoping to go on a quilting cruise next year. If I have as much fun as I think I'm going to have, I may do one next year as well. Because there's one that I'm like, I would really like to do this. So we will see what happens. And Jordy was like, you're right, I forgot about that. Love a balcony. I'm excited to find out, where we are on the ship and everything. So that's going to be interesting. I've downloaded the app because it's a Royal Caribbean cruise and they have an app that'll do it. But one, I don't have a reservation number yet because it's booked third party. So I can't see everything that's available exactly on my cruise. And then on the other hand, I don't have. They only show you, I think it's about 3 months in advance. So they're only showing cruises to the end of September. So I still can't see exactly what's available on my cruise yet. I'm hoping to get maybe a confirmation number in the next week because they're charging the last payment. And I jokingly call it the last payment because I paid the deposit, not fully realizing, oh, they're going to want the remainder in 2 weeks. Which is not a big deal because I had the money ready and planned. So I'm not concerned that they're charging the other half in 2 weeks later, but I was like, I wonder if I would have gotten a reservation number. Probably not with the way as quickly as it was. So I'm looking forward to getting the reservation number so I can start, planning things that I want to do, like that I want to do, and then see what Stephanie wants to do that I'm interested in as well. And figure out, what days we will be sewing and what kind of excursions might be available. Colleen says, "Hi, Candace. I don't think Russ will have that type of seasickness." I mean, stranger things have happened. But immaculate conception, I don't know if I can do that. Duvraka says, "Good morning, Russ and friends from Canada." Good morning, Duvraka. I hope you are having a wonderful day up there. I hope you survived whatever portion of the heat wave was wherever you were. I was comparing our temperatures to Steven's temperatures, and we were only like, I would say 1 to 1.5 degrees Celsius, or about 2 or 3 degrees Fahrenheit, usually warmer than he was, which is ridiculous because Canada's supposed to be a lot cooler than here. Jody says she was on one of the cruises you see on YouTube where the whole ship got sick from storm waves, with furniture going side to side, food plates flying off tables, but that only happened once in 10 cruises. I don't know. Well, okay, I really don't want one of those things to happen because they're hysterical to watch on YouTube because you have no perspective as to what's happening because the camera's not moving. But I also don't want to have one of those events because I don't like turbulence on a plane. But that's mostly because the plane is like 30,000 feet in the air. And when there's turbulence, it's like, are we going to go down? While I understand the Titanic, I don't think that there is as big of a chance of going down with a cruise. And if you do go down, there's still boats. I mean, there's that. So I am a lot less concerned if there's a rocky day at sea. Because again, I've been on lakes and stuff. They get very rocky with the other boats in the area. And speaking of the Titanic, I learned a really cool fact the other day. Did you know that even though the Titanic accident happened all those years ago, the swimming pool is still full of water? Can you believe that? I mean, that was a shocking piece of information to me. But yeah, I'm kind of excited. And apparently, my sister said that she had kind of tried to look it up to see how much it would cost for her to go on the cruise. And she's like, yeah, it was this much cheaper for non sewing participants. And I told her, if you're going to be a non sewing participant, you might as well just sign up direct with Royal Caribbean because it's going to be even cheaper. And she just looked at me. I was like, yeah, there's overhead, which is expected with a third party doing a cruise that you don't have to pay if you're going to book direct. I don't know what other differences you get by booking through the third party, but I know that, you have to pay for the salaries of the third party person. And I know that they're going to do all this. I mean, they're coordinating getting things up on the boat because, they got to get machines in and all this sort of stuff. So I know there's a lot of work that has to happen to do the quilting cruise. And I'm like, you don't need to be paying for that if you're not going to be sewing. Now, if it was like a husband and wife or two friends going and one of them wanted to quilt and the other didn't, if you want the same room, yeah, you got to book together. But I ain't sharing a room with my sister. She snores. I actually, okay, I'm sorry, Fran, I'm calling you out. But I kind of giggled because I heard her snoring while I was up there visiting. She's nowhere near as bad as Mom was when Mom snored. But it was still, I giggled. Joydie says she hasn't been on Royal Caribbean before, but she's heard it's fun. A friend of mine, when I posted the announcement on my Facebook, she responded that not only has, because I know that she's been on many cruises, but she's like, I've been on that boat before, and it's a lot of fun. So, so I think it's going to be fun. And thank goodness, like she's not going to be on the boat right in front of me and all this. Because, people like to hide things for the next people. I think it would almost be amusing if you could on a boat or something do all the hiding of stuff. But I'm sure housekeeping would not appreciate all of that. So... Jody goes, shake my head, brothers, go figure. Hey, she would call me out on anything as well. And, she's been on my channel before. So she has called me out on a couple things in the past. Which, again, siblings are allowed to do things to siblings, but... heaven forbid somebody else try to call Fran out on something. I mean, you ain't doing that to my sister. There was a BuzzFeed article, video from several years ago now. That was basically how siblings react to each other and stuff. And I sent it to Fran. I was like, this is us. It was just totally us, the way that we act and everything. It was great. Candace says that she's been on Royal Caribbean for the most part, except for Alaska and Hawaii were on Norwegian. because that makes total sense to go on Norwegian, a Norway cruise line, to Alaska and Hawaii. I'm sure Norwegian is just the name, not the origination of the ships and stuff. But I just kind of giggle about the name. Duvraka says, I bet you snore too. I have been informed that my snoring has been greatly reduced, if not eliminated, thanks to my CPAP machine. So I'm not going to say that I don't snore, but I'm just going to say it is nowhere near the levels of definitely mom because of the CPAP. Okay, so I really need to line up better. I mean, this isn't bad because they gave us a lot of extra fabric, but I have to trim because I'm not lining up. And I am lining up, it's just when you flip everything upside down and backwards, things shift. And I'm not verifying that the shift doesn't happen. So what I'm saying is, shift happens. But I cut these pieces a lot larger than necessary. I think the fat quarter shop instructions give us plenty of leeway, but I added like 1/4 of an inch just so that I could have that little bit of extra room. Good morning, Diana, who is checking in from Bermuda. I think Bermuda is one of the stops that I'm going to have on the cruise. Don't know which day. Obviously don't know where in Bermuda, if it is stopping there. But where did my phone go? Oh, wait, Bermuda's not. It's Nassau in the Bahamas, Falmouth, Jamaica, Labadee, Haiti. So those are the 3 stops. So not Bermuda. So, sorry, Diana, can't stop and say hi. Yep, Candace, it was Bahamas. Candace, I guess probably Bahamas. It's almost like it's probably lupus, except when it's not lupus. Bermuda is very north of the Caribbean. Sorry, I was going to show you around. I am very bad with geography, and it's not just not here geography. I am bad with here geography as well. Like when I first moved here, I was taking routes that I knew. So if I was trying to head home, I was like, well, I know home was down 85, and I knew I can get to 85 from 285, and da 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 da. And I took that route one day, and the friend of mine was like, why did you go this way? I was like, because that's how I get home. And he goes, we could have just stayed on 400 and got like within like 2 miles of your home. I was like, really? And because I'm bad with geography. Somebody asks me where someplace is, I'm like, I have no clue. Like the big cities, I know Macon is south of me. I know Chattanooga is north of me. Ask me where someplace else is, I mean, like, nope, no clue. Did I do better on that one? A little bit. Ask me to navigate, you know, from one place to another. I'm like, there's a reason why God invented GPS. Line up. And even around here where I live, there was one day we were trying to go somewhere, and I'm navigating because a friend of mine was like not as familiar with this part of town. And he goes, "Are you sure?" I was like, "I think I'm sure." Then we turn around there, and then when we come out, I was like, "Why did we come out here?" And he goes, "This is where you told me to turn." And then I was visualizing it in my head. I was like, "Oh, I thought we were one road further." So the short answer is, do not trust me with directions unless I told you that I have gotten it from like MapQuest or something. Now, that said, if it's a route that I take all the time, I can tell you the directions. When I was in college, I would give folks directions, and I would give them almost a page of directions just on one road because I don't want people to feel like, because it was a long bit on the road, so I didn't want them to think that they were getting lost. So I gave them, you're going to see this, you're going to see this, you're going to see this, you're going to see this. And when we were in our old office, I would occasionally get tickets to WWE events. And I had friends who lived in Chattanooga who were huge WWE fans. I'm like, if I get tickets, do you want to go to such and such event? And they said yes. So the first time that I gave them directions, I was like, I'm giving you Russ directions, because while your GPS will get you here, I want to make sure you get on the HOV lane. I want to make sure you know how to get off the HOV lane and get here from that exit, because your GPS may not tell you to get on the HOV lane. So I gave, again, clear directions so that, because I drove that many times, so I know those directions. But you want me to tell you how to get from A to B from a place that I've never traveled from A to B directly before? Yeah, don't trust those directions from me. Good morning, Jen. How are you doing today? And on the same concept of general directions, I visited Phoenix 5 or 6 times because my friend David used to live there. And as you know, my friend John from Geiscraft 2 lives somewhere in the Phoenix area. He has mentioned Sun City West a couple times. And I'm like, I have no idea where Sun City is, Sun City West or anything. And I had a conversation about Filiberto's the other day, which that's the main reason why I want to go back to Phoenix is Filiberto's. Kind of sad, but having a conversation, so I pulled up a map, and I finally sent John a message saying, I think I understand where you live now, because I saw Sun City on the same map, and I was like, David used to live over here area, because I remember that the Brass Armadillo was over here. And like the little things that I could remember, and it was like certain landmarks and stuff. And it's sad that an antique shop is one of the main things that I remember, because I'm like, I know this is here, so I know about where I was. Jody says, Russ, don't take over the helm of the ship. Nope, 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 nope. If I know I can't drive it, I won't even attempt. Although it would be kind of cool to be able to go into the captain's deck or whatever it's called and say, what's this button do? Push. No, I would never do that. Bridge. That's the word, bridge. And it's sad that the main reason why I can think bridge is because that's the Star Trek term. Because they got their terms from naval terms. Come on. Pull. There you go. You can take a tour of there. That, like I said, that would be really cool. But I'm also like, okay, how exciting would it really be? Because it's just people doing their job. It's like they used to have the CNN tour here in Atlanta back before they moved all their operations away. And I was like, why is this exciting? You're just watching people work. And, you know, it's like, okay, I understand this is a job that I cannot do, especially when you get to do the control room portion of the tour. And I'm like, it's interesting to see how that stuff works, which is how I was able to understand how OBS works, because I've been on a few CNN tours because friends, family come visit. That's one of the things they want to do. But I'm also like, you don't actually see them pushing the buttons, you just see the concepts on the screen. And I'm like, it's really not that exciting, so why would it be exciting to go there and watch the captain push the buttons, or tell his helmsman to push the buttons? Because I'm sure there's not one of the big giant steering wheels anymore. It's probably very much autopilot driven. But like I said, I'm just waiting until I get my cruise number or confirmation number so I can go in and look at all of the goodies that I can do and say, hey, do you want to do this? Hey, do you want to do this? Hey, I have absolutely no desire to go see this. Joydy says, years ago, she was thinking of becoming a cruise nurse for a year, but when you found out you would be underwater, said that's not for me. Oh, because the crew ends up staying below decks, isn't that right? A few weeks ago, I had a handful of cruise related shorts come up in my YouTube feed, and one of them was talking about the crew quarters and how tiny it can be. And I think a lot of it is really because there's only so much room on a ship. It does amaze me how they can have all that food on the ship. Like, I'm sure a lot of it is picked up at each of the ports, potentially. But that's a lot of food because there's a lot of people. Okay, I've got this block done too. They just need trimming, which leaves one snail trail left from that month's homework. I've got to put together all of the smaller pieces for last month's homework, and then I got to figure out what other homework I have left. But that's afternoon Russ problem, not now Russ problem, because I got to figure out what's for lunch. But thank you everybody for joining me this morning and a couple minutes of the afternoon. I am really excited to be sharing this. Do not forget that tomorrow is the Kona block of the month. We are doing June. Here is the block. So we will be doing June's block tomorrow live here at 1 p.m. Eastern. I will be joined by a couple friends, and it's always going to be a lot of fun. This afternoon at 5 o'clock on my friend Stephanie of Quilting with Stephanie Stitches channel, we will be doing some hanging out together, playing catch up with all of our projects, because she and I are both working on projects. She and I are both a little behind on some of our blocks. So it is a lot of playing catch up with everything that we are trying to do, because we're trying to get fully caught up so that we can finish these projects and then start something new. And everything will be ready. So, and then as always on Wednesdays, weekly vlog, catch it. It's always hilarious. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Toodles!